Welcome to the IVF Abroad podcast for people who are struggling with infertility and trying to conceive and who are facing more obstacles than options when it comes to having fertility testing or treatment in their home countries. Alongside other experts, I will share, educate and empower you on your journey and help you to learn more about going abroad for advanced fertility testing and treatments like IVF and egg donation. I'm Emma Haslam, your host, now mum of one, and the go-to expert in fertility treatment abroad. Since the birth of our son in 2018, I have made it my mission to make fertility treatment more informed, transparent, accessible, supported and affordable for more people. And I help people just like you to become unstuck, to find a best fit clinic that truly meets their needs and to have fertility treatment on their terms and timescales so they can achieve their dreams of growing their families. And I'm here now to help you too. Be sure to check out the free resources in the show notes for more help after listening to today's episode. Hello and welcome to the final episode of the IVF Abroad podcast in 2025. In the episode that I'm about to share with you, I thought we could use it as a gentle reflection and reset as we come towards the end of the year and ahead of the new year. Because I know, having been there, that as the year comes to an end, lots of you will be carrying, potentially internally, quiet thoughts that maybe you haven't even said out loud of how has another year gone by, and perhaps feeling that you're still no closer to growing your family. And it's certainly not because you didn't try hard enough. And it's not because you didn't want things badly enough. It is for lots of reasons, and some of those reasons are completely outside of our control. Some of it is because we are stuck in systems, we're stuck waiting, perhaps we're stuck in overwhelm. And as another year goes by, I know how heavy the weight of that feels to you. It did to me too, another year going by, feeling the pressure of the ticking clock. And also, as I've touched on in some of my previous episodes, as it comes towards the sort of Christmas and Thanksgiving periods, it kind of intensifies, I think, some of these feelings for us. And lots of my clients have shared with me this year, and people in my community, that this year's felt particularly heavy. You know, there's a lot going on in the world right now. And people are feeling it. And, you know, people are feeling that heaviness. They're feeling emotionally drained, financially drained. But I want you to know that wherever you are right now, that it's not a reflection of you, of your efforts, of your self-worth. If you're not where you wanted to be or expected to be, it's not your fault. And to know that perhaps moving into 2026, there might be some things that are options that are there to help you to move forwards in a way that perhaps you weren't able to in 2025. So it's absolutely not about setting resolutions or pressure to force ourselves to be positive. I suppose it's about gently asking whether there are things that we can control. And if so, can we make any changes in those areas? As I said, there are some things that we cannot control, absolutely. But are there areas where actually, if we stop and pause for a moment, we can have a think and identify some areas where perhaps things do need to change and can change. I think when you're trying to conceive a baby and struggling, the years can really start to blur when you're waiting, whether that's waiting for answers, whether that is that sort of cycle of hope when you first start trying. You're waiting for your period, you feel hopeful again. Then you try, then you're not pregnant, and then you pause, you're disappointed, and maybe again next month. And that cycle can repeat itself. Perhaps you're sat on a waiting list, waiting to be told if you're eligible for treatment, waiting to get your space for treatment. Maybe you're saving up for treatment. Maybe you're just feeling completely overwhelmed and you're paralyzed and not doing anything at the moment because you don't know what to do, or you're just so overwhelmed. Maybe you've been looking into private options and, done a Google search, and so much is thrown back at you. You're just like, oh my God, I don't even know where to start. Maybe you're in analysis paralysis, looking at everything, analysing things, trying to work out what's real, what's marketing, which clinics you can believe, who you might want to go with. I mean, it's a lot. It is a lot. But wherever you are, you have not failed. This is not your fault. And let's see, as we pause for a moment together, where you're actually at and what you would like to be different in 2026, and what things you might be able to do or change or get support with to help you towards getting there. Often why the years can end up the same for us as well is that if we're in that state of analysis paralysis, we get really scared, I think, of making the wrong decision because this is so important. We put that pressure on ourselves of making the wrong decision. There can be this massive amount of overwhelm because there's too many conflicting opinions and information. And because we're used to a level of discomfort because we're going through infertility, which is extremely uncomfortable, almost like the familiarity of discomfort can feel somehow better than the uncertainty of making the wrong choice, which can feel somehow worse. Or we think, we can just wait a little bit longer. And sometimes waiting is absolutely the right decision. But it's mental, isn't it, how quickly a year goes by. And I think it's worth just checking in with ourselves to say, is this where we're at? Has this year been the same? Because actually we are feeling stuck, therefore we're not actually making any changes to move forwards. And these aren't character flaws. This is just having too much information and feeling overwhelmed in a really upsetting and difficult situation. And sometimes we stay stuck because we're trying to protect ourselves because we're scared about moving forwards. And so I think it's worth just checking in and thinking, is there an element of me at the end of this year or us that actually are sort of we're stuck and we aren't doing anything, and actually we need to be doing something perhaps different, maybe a supported choice, so that we can start to move forwards in a way that suits I or us when it comes to this next year. And the sort of quiet power of choosing something different can be really helpful and then empowering. It doesn't have to be change doesn't have to be dramatic or immediate. Sometimes it's just a baby step, like one different decision that you need to make is enough. And, working out what that next step is. I think sometimes we're just trying to think sort of too far into the future. So what is your next step? What would help you with that next step? Your clarity and a plan is more powerful than urgency. And I invite you to think about, what is it from this year that perhaps isn't working for you anymore? And if there's anything that you might have been postponing because it feels too big or overwhelming, or because you're stuck. And I think sometimes that honest reflection can just help us to get a little bit more clarity on exactly where we're at. And then we can kind of work out then maybe what might need to be different to help us have a different experience in 2026. And different might look like, for example, seeking clearer information, getting support from an expert in the area in which you're struggling, thinking about what questions might need to be asked of professionals perhaps around you. Maybe you need to look for support personally within your friends and family. Maybe you need to expand your view and look at other options of things that might be possible that perhaps you haven't considered were right for you in the past. Deciding that you won't let feeling overwhelmed stop you from progressing forwards, and using it to help identify that is a need when you're feeling overwhelmed, to perhaps simplify things down to work out what the next step is. You want to move into 2026 feeling intentional, informed, supported, and taking back some of the control I think that we lose when we are going through times like this. I suppose if there's one thing that I want you to take from this episode, it's this. This year does not need to be a repeat of this one. Now, obviously, I understand we don't have the control over when we have our babies and grow our families, but we do have a control over some of the decisions that we make along the way. And that's not to put pressure on you or make you feel like any of this is your fault, because it's absolutely not. But sometimes taking a moment to reflect and to look at what's worked well this year, what hasn't, and just being really honest with yourself about, is there something or some things that need to change? And just starting with one thing. Don't become stuck so that nothing is happening, because time whizzes by. And if you're stuck, it's just a sign that something needs to change. If you're overwhelmed, tackle one thing at once. You don't have to suddenly become braver or feel stronger or more disciplined or be a different person, but you are allowed to make some different choices where there are choices. And you don't have to decide everything today. You don't have to know the full plan, but you are allowed to stop staying stuck in a situation that no longer feels right for you. So if you're listening to this and you're realizing that you want next year to look and feel different, and you're looking to potentially explore going abroad with some guidance and support from someone like myself to help you to make those changes, to have the support and guidance where you need it, to help you to find the right clinic for your needs, to shortcut that down, to keep you safe, to help you to stretch your budget further, then you're very, very welcome to get in touch. You'll find a link in the show notes where you can book a free complimentary call with me, and we can talk about what's been going on for you and whether working together feels like the right next step. Whatever you decide, wherever you are on your journey, be gentle with yourself as this year closes. And remember, change doesn't have to be loud or rushed to be meaningful. It can just be that one small next step. And sometimes that then leads to the next thing and the next thing. Because if we keep doing what we've always done, we'll keep getting what we've always got. And I know there are massive elements of this journey that are outside of your control. But I also know there are definitely elements for most people where we have some control to take some of that power back and to be able to change the direction in which we are moving if the one in which we are moving in at the moment isn't working, or if we're not moving at all. I hope that you have enjoyed this episode. This episode is the last one, as I mentioned, for 2025, and I'm going to take a slight pause with the podcast over the Christmas and New Year period. There are obviously lots and lots of other episodes that you can go back and have a listen to if you are a new listener to the podcast. But if not, then I will be back on Tuesday, the 13th of January. Hit the subscribe button and you will be notified when the next episode of the podcast goes live. And in the meantime, I hope you have a nice Christmas if you celebrate. I hope you have a restful time, and a happy new year to you all. If you are facing more obstacles than options and want to learn more about how to overcome your fertility testing and treatment challenges in your home country so that you too can fast track to growing your family and on your terms, then check out my free training at yourivfabroad.co.uk/free masterclass. Don't forget to rate and subscribe so you don't miss an episode and so that I can reach and help more people. Thanks for listening.